All right, what's going on, everybody? I am here with Kevin. I'm gonna put his Instagram handle right here because I can't fucking remember that. Do you remember it word by word or letter by letter?
At XVKBar. It's my initials. I also go by Kiwi Film, so you can find me that way as well.
That I did not know.
Yeah, that's like my formal name.
So we are here at Kevin's setup in his studio. So what we wanted to do, we wanted to link up for a while now, and with COVID and everything happening, it just completely just got lost in the wind at that point. And then I remember we wanted to do something, so we got a shoot set up and we thought it would be fun to put a little twist on it. So basically what we did here today is we took both of our styles and made each other shoot in it. So Kevin shot in my style and I shot in Kevin's style, but we also shot in our own styles as well. And we had our amazing model, Alana, whose Instagram handle will show up later when she shows up. Basically, we just wanted to see what we could do in each other's styles and see what we could come up with and see how different each result would come out with. Our mindsets can think pretty much the same about how we want to shoot these things, but we can still get very different results. And kind of the lesson to be learned is you can take inspiration from any photographer or any piece of work in the art industry and truly make it your own without having to copy and paste it. A lot of people fall into that and they don't really know that they can really make something a lot more creative and themselves and unique just by trying to put a little spin on it while trying to do the same thing. Okay, so right now we are about to get ready for the shoot. Set up, first look is Kevin's, and then after Kevin's look, we are gonna go into my look, and then we will be pretty much done. Kevin, what are you looking forward to?
I'm actually really excited to see how we can each shoot the same concept, but just take our own, viewpoint on it. And then, I think we have really similar styles, but just kind of like see things slightly different. So it'll be interesting to just kind of like take a look at that. And once we see the final images, just, to kind of compare and contrast, I guess.
Well, word for word right there, I was gonna say my bit, but then he took every fucking word. So yeah, we're gonna get going on that right now, and then we will be coming back to talk a little bit more about how it felt and what the experience was like. So we'll see you guys then. All right, so we just got done with the shoot, and basically now we're just gonna talk a little bit about what it felt like to shoot in each other's shoes, and what our mindsets were going into it, and how we basically adapted our own looks into each other's different styles. So I'm gonna be asking Kevin a couple of questions, and he's gonna be asking me the same question. So, Kevin,
What's up?
First question is, what was it like to shoot in a more movie scene like setup compared to shooting in your more high fashion oriented scenery or like setups?
Well, what's interesting is that I actually started shooting video in the beginning, so I've always been very used to the whole like cinematic approach to things. Although shooting high fashion lately, the last few months, I see things a little bit more in like, I want to say like in a more like clean and stylized way, not necessarily in a more scenic way. So it was a nice like change of pace to like actually go to that for a while, because it just brought back a lot of memories of me doing a lot more sets and like different types of lighting. So it was a good mix, but it didn't seem too far out of place from what I've done in the past. So.
And I think that really comes in handy with the fact that you've done it before.
Yeah.
And then it's huge for people to try different styles, because then you're kind of a jack of all trades and you can bring different experiences into this. Like when we were shooting, Kevin's been shooting a lot more high fashion lately. So I noticed when he was shooting my concept, he started doing a lot different of a setup and started doing a lot more different posing than I would. And that alone will bring a completely different life to our pictures. When we show these pictures, side by side, there will be a clear, definitive difference between these two, even though they're in the same exact setup.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point right there. And then my other question is, what was the one thing you really enjoyed about shooting more in my style?
I love that you have that whole like dreamy aspect of seeing things, and that's something that I kind of like play around with a lot too. So just bringing that whole like softness and like moodiness to the whole atmosphere, I think was really fun, because that's like just right up my alley too. So.
Also, he really enjoyed the PRISM lens effects filters.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Shout out to PRISM lens effects. Shameless plug, but yeah, no,
because I use filters too. I just don't have quite as like a variety of them. I stick to just a couple of them, but that was fun to like play around with.
Yeah, you really like the center field focus, which on that filter it blurs both sides of the photo and makes it to where only the middle of your photo is in focus. So it kind of helps. It's kind of like a vignette in a sense, but you're just blurring the corners instead of making them darker, and it brings a lot more focus to your subject, and then kind of gives you that dream state kind of look. But it was really cool to see you kind of like play around with that.
Well, it just adds a lot, like a whole different like layer to the photo, and then just playing with that whole like dream aspect, I think kind of goes hand in hand. So. Right, Mitchell, it's my time to ask you some questions
now. I'm on the pressure.
I'm kind of curious, what did you feel were like the similarities and differences between like your style and my style, and how did you feel like we kind of played off of each other?
It's funny because it's like, I think we talked about this a little bit before the photo shoot. I think our styles are very different, yet lean a little bit more towards a similar aspect, but I think it's not necessarily within the work itself, it's more in the mindset of shooting it. Because I mean, if we look at both of our feeds, they look very, very different.
They really do.
But I think it's just the fact that me and you, I mean, when we were setting up our lights and everything, I mean, we were both very particular about where each thing should be, and we were very clear cut of the objective that we wanted to get. And I think that's where we draw a lot of similarities in that is kind of the workflow and not the work itself.
Yeah.
But even then, there's still a couple of similarities and everything. We both like to push the envelope a little bit when it comes to the posing and the technique, and we both like to get different angles. Because I mean, when we were both shooting, we didn't really sit in one spot like some people. We were up above, we were down low, we were to the side, we were askew, we were acute, literally everywhere but just one place. So I think that's where we really draw a lot of similarities, is within the workflow and not like the work itself in a sense.
I think even in the lighting, even though we use the lights slightly different, we both use like gels, we use smoke machines, which I think is really cool, filters. So I think all those little elements is what kind of like brings our styles together, but don't necessarily like mimic each other.
And that's kind of like the other thing that comes back to what we were saying is like, you could have the same exact setup as somebody, but it doesn't mean you have to get the same exact results as that person. You can completely put your own twist. That was such a pathetic. There we go.
You can do it like you mean.
You can put your own twist on it, So it's like, when you see somebody on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, whatever you're consuming content on, and you see a photo, it's like, sure, you can recreate it, but it's better to go into a mindset of trying to do something like it, but also putting your own twist. I mean, I look at Pinterest all the time, and I use a lot of that to kind of show off my photos and kind of like give an ideas like, hey, this is what I want to go for. And I draw a lot of inspiration from movies, but when I'm done with the shoot, I look back at my mood board and I'm like, wow, that was totally
It's like
different.
entirely different. No, I know, I get that.
So it's like, people need to get into that mindset more than just being like, hey, this is what I'm gonna go for, and that's it.
No, I love that though, because then you can really just like once you, it's good to have like a basic idea to kind of like stem from, but you have to really just like kind of show up the day of, and then just like however you feel, kind of bring that atmosphere, that emotion to the shoot.
And I think that's another similarity of ours is that, you know, we plan things, but as soon as we get to the shoot, it could go.
We're really emotional too. I think you and I are both really emotional, and sometimes it might not show, especially because I do like really grungy shit. But you know,
I mean, that's an emotion in itself, so.
You know, but you know, I can be a softie too, so I love that whole like softness of things, and like really like narrowing down like a certain mood for, you know, whether it's grungy or, you know, punk or whatever. So you know, just like really going for it and trying to be bold. So
definitely agree with that. All right, next question, baby. Let's go.
So Mitch, I'm kind of curious to see what your thoughts are on, you know, just I know that you're used to shooting at your own place and kind of like in a studio setting as well. But coming into like my space and then seeing how, you know, I set up my things or whatever, how do you feel like that was, you know? Did you feel still kind of in your element of studio shooting, or did you feel like it was like just kind of like, whoa, entirely different?
You know, it's always funny when I go and work with like another photographer or something, or somebody that's within the same field that knows about the equipment and everything. I don't know if you always feel like this, but I always feel anxious when I get there, because I'm like, what if I set it up and they're like, what the fuck
they're
is
just
this?
Like
they're like, what is
no,
this?
I totally feel that.
So I always think like that, but like I also am like, I remind myself of, you know, what I tell others about the fact that like you could literally get away with the tiniest little like LED light as your lighting setup. If that is what helps you for the shoot, then that gets you the shot. So it's like, if people are getting judgmental over that stuff, then it's like that's their problem. But I mean, no, like as soon as we started shooting, I felt like I was shooting in my own studio in a sense. I mean, I had my same lighting set up, but even when I was shooting with your light, even though it was set up differently exposure wise and the vibe was completely different, I felt like I was still, you know, comfortable enough to kind of just do my thing, and I moved at my own pace. And like as soon as I got the pictures, I was like, all right, bam, done, don't need more than that, instead of being like, was that good enough?
Right. And well, I think that's when what it comes down to is like when you feel comfortable working with other people, whether they're another photographer or just another creative, whatever, somebody that you've worked with before. I think feeling comfortable really helps you get in that whole space, where that headspace where you can really just go ahead and be yourself. You know, whether you're experienced in photography or you're not, it's your first time working together. You know, all that kind of plays with it. So
yeah, you feel a lot better when you go into a photo shoot knowing that the other person has the same objective as you, and that's like why like I try to make it as clear as possible as soon as we start the shoot, just like my objectives, what I want out of the shoot, and where it's gonna go and everything.
Well, it's only the first time, the second time that we've met each other, and the first time that we actually worked together. So that being said, I feel like we definitely like dance pretty well with, you know, like I didn't feel like you were in my way or that I was in your way.
Well, and the best thing about you know, our mindsets is we're very communicative of
we can definitely both be very like assertive about what we want, but I don't think that felt like I was like stepping on your toes, or like our lighting setup was so different, but it was so it was just a matter of like switching a few things on the lights, and you know what I mean. So
yeah, it's kind of funny because it's like, you know, without even, you know, like working with each other beforehand, you know, this is our first time working with each other. We met at a party, and that was our only experience with each other. And then, you know, we followed each other on Instagram and that, but our first time working, I mean, you know, when we were setting up my setup, I was just like, yo, can you move that light and put it over here? And then instant just,
and that you gotta work on clapping.
I don't know what's going on. But like,
you know, like I knew like you all you had to say was like can you help me move that light? And then I knew what your vision was without like necessarily asking you too much. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that was cool.
And it goes to prove the point of, you could be two completely different people, but still literally get, you know, on the same level and yet come out with the completely different thing. Because like I said, when Kev was shooting my idea. I mean, he was changing my lighting setup. I mean, and he shot in my first lighting setup and then changed it up a bit. And even that alone, it was like, oh man, like I would have done that too. Why didn't I think of that? And you're just, and it's just like, it's funny that way. Cause I mean, it's just cool to kind of see that. And like I said, it's like, it's weird to see somebody else like shooting my exact scene.
Like your idea.
Like my exact scene and being like, whoa, what's
Why
going
did I
on?
think about that?
Yeah.
You know what's funny is that like I said earlier is that I like remembered all those times where I'm like, oh my god, I remember like this is totally a concept that I would have done like maybe like a year ago when my style was maybe a little bit more like on your end, if that makes sense. So it was like really nice to, you know, just revisit all those ideas and all that. So,
And I think it kind of sparks a little bit of a conversation of like taking inspiration from people instead of being like, because you get a lot of people who are like, oh god, they did like the same idea as me or something like that, and they get jealous. Like there's a lot of jealousy in this industry when it's like, I mean, you could literally do the same thing in a little bit different of a manner, and it's still unique to you, and it could do even better, it could do worse, but it's just, you got to stick to you and keep doing that and not pay attention to what other people are doing and just take inspiration from what other people are doing. Like literally as you were shooting, I looked to Matt and I'm like, I'm gonna have the second dip after this. I gotta go back in there.
I felt the same way too, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what am I doing? Because I can be very like very set on my ideas, and just like once I think of something, like I really just want to stick to that in a way. And it's not like I love experimenting, but I really stick to what my initial vision was. And so that's like both a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah, because I literally by like the end of the shoot, I was thinking about ideas in your setup, and I'm like, why did I do that? Like I felt like I was being basic. But like, I mean, that's with like every shoot. Like even when I'm done, I'm like, oh, I could have done this and this and this. But yeah, it's just interesting to see where that all goes. But yeah, that's kind of like what we've experienced through this shoot. I mean, it's been really cool to kind of see each other kind of blend in each other's worlds and see where it leads to. I mean, and especially when we get these photos done, I'm so excited to edit these photos.
Me too. I'm so curious to see like, you know, how
I'm gonna get this done tonight. I'm so ready. But yeah, so that's kind of how we felt about, you know, shooting in each other's shoes. I mean, it's very different, but yet there's a strange familiarity with it, and it can lead to so many different outlets. Basically, just be yourself and, you know, take inspiration from others, but just don't try to copy and paste it. Put your own flair into it. Don't think about it too much, because literally, even though we planned this, you know, we planned this for like a week, we still, when we got to the shoot, we're like, what are we doing? Like we didn't know our lighting setups, and you know, we wanted to make it up as we were there, because that's where the true creativity comes from, is when you're there and doing it instead of trying to plan it exactly right before it even happens. So even just like living in the moment in a sense. But
be weird, do crazy shit, do whatever you want.
God, what wise words.
I just said shit.
Cut! Why aren't you cutting? Well, alright guys, I'm getting ready to leave right now. I'm gonna pack up, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something from it. Kevin is in the back now, great. Please, if you guys like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. Go check out Kevin's work and go check out Alana's work. Also, shout out to Matt in the back right behind the camera. You better go check him out as well. I'm gonna put all the links to their social medias down below, so please go check them out. Also, thank you PRISM Lens Effects for all the filters that we used today. We didn't really get to experiment too much with them, but there will be some photos that we will be showing off that you'll see some of the filters and I will point them out. But also go to our Instagrams and be ready to see those photos posted. And yeah, can't wait to show you guys. See you in the next video. Peace.